Tonight, do we still like to be beside the seaside?
Blackpool has lost a lot of customers.
Doesn't that scare you?
Yes, it does scare me, but I think everyone in Blackpool is going to start investing in the town, and we've really all got to work together.
British resorts fighting back.
Is it true to say that the Tate has really turned St Ives around?
Yes, it has turned St Ives around, and not just St Ives, it's probably turned Cornwall around.
Or could this be the end of an era?
It's empty. I mean, it's that quiet some days on the beach. The donkeys are giving each other rides.
Good evening. The traditional British seaside resort is something many of us view with a warm feeling of nostalgia. But now some of our favourite destinations are under threat. Cheap flights and guaranteed sunshine abroad mean that many seaside destinations have been in serious decline for decades. So much so that a committee of MPs has warned that economic regeneration of coastal resorts is of critical importance if they are to have any future. Michael Nicholson has this report.
Where the brass bands play tiddly-om-pom-pom.
Except they don't anymore, at least none that we could find. They've gone, and with them so much of our seaside holiday experiences. The story of decline is really the story of Blackpool. It still bills itself as the capital of fun, but there's nothing funny about the fact that fewer and fewer people are coming here. And the story of decline is repeated so often that we have to ask ourselves whether we are now witnessing the death of the traditional British seaside holiday.
Last week it was that windy in Blackpool. I saw these Siamese twins looking for each other. But the beach now is immaculate. The sea's clean, you can go in the sea now and not bump into your breakfast, you know.
Johnny Casson's performed in Blackpool since the days when it was the Mecca for the biggest stars. He's trod the boards thousands of times, and he's watched the audiences dwindle.
I mean, it's that quiet some days on the beach. The donkeys are giving each other rides.
In the old days, it must have been a pretty fantastic place to be.
Yeah. When I first came here, I came in 1949. The thing is, more than anything, when I used to come as a kid, were the crowds. It was on the North Pier. You struggled to walk up here. You struggled to get a deck chair. It was mobbed. We used to come here every year, and you'd book in the digs, and your mother would unpack the cases. Your father would go out and book the shows. At the Opera House, 3,500 people, and it was full twice a night.
Incredible.
And the guy we used to go and see, one of my favourites was called Ronnie Ronald, and he was a whistler.
Yeah, blackbird. If I am a blackbird, I'll whistle. I remember it.
But 7,000 people a night to watch a fellow whistle.
Incredible. Does it make you sad looking around you now?
Well, it makes you sad that someday the kids will be turning around and calling these the good old days. And I find that quite sad, because our good old days, I'm sure, were better than these.
And who'd argue with that if this is what is attracted to some resorts nowadays? The stags, the hens, they bring in the cash, but at a price not mentioned in the MP's report. They were more concerned with the problems of serious deprivation and underinvestment, all of which spells seedy, violent, dirty. It says to most of us, stay away. But why do we care? Well, because the sand castle, the bucket and spade holiday is so much part of our heritage. Did you know that Blackpool has been a resort for over 250 years?
So what we're seeing here is a huge congregation of people waiting to go to Blackpool from Stalybridge. Factories all closed at the same time, as they'd done for more than 50 years previously.
Very happy pot, isn't it?
Oh, everybody's having a joke.
All in their Sunday best.
All in their Sunday best.
They really are.
They've left their clogs, they've left their work clothes behind.
Platform is packed, isn't it? Here it comes, the 11:22 to Blackpool.
By this time, whole towns were going on holiday at once. They'd go to Southport, they'd go to the Isle of Man, Morecambe, eastwards to Scarborough. People were coming to Blackpool from Glasgow and industrial Scotland as well. This is really an essential part of Blackpool, and of course, let's not forget the donkeys. They had camels in 1897, but they
I think the
didn't last.
cameraman's upset the donkeys.
One problem we have with all the films of Blackpool is that they show people in respectable places behaving respectably. What you don't have is film of people getting drunk in the little pubs.
I love that. The audience is spellbound by the orchestra.
Well, you see, this is exactly the
This is
image
not the
Blackpool. This is the image Blackpool wanted to
Well, it's not
create
the image
and
of
propagate.
Blackpool today, is it?
The 60s and the 70s were the heydays for our traditional seaside resorts.
This is what the visitor to Blackpool has worked for and dreamed of throughout the year.
But what followed were decades of long and seemingly irreversible decline.
How do you explain the decline?
First big trend in the 1950s and 1960s was for people to discover Cornwall and Devon and start going there in their new cars. The old industrial holidays start to decline with the old industries. It's also, of course, the rise of the package tour to the Mediterranean. That comes a bit later. It comes on stream much more strongly from the late 1970s onwards, especially for working class families.
Woman shouts to her husband, "Have you seen my flip-flops?" He said, "We've all seen them. Put your T-shirt back on."
Yes, you can joke about it, but it shouldn't be a laughing matter. 20 years ago, 17 million people came here to Blackpool's Golden Mile. Now it's about 10 million. Mind you, in April you'd hardly expect the beaches to be packed. In Morecambe, just up the coast, the situation's no better. Great Yarmouth in Norfolk. Since the 70s, tourist numbers there have more than halved. And it's not just Blackpool that suffers high levels of deprivation. Hastings in East Sussex is the most deprived borough in the southeast. And Scarborough, home to about a third of all North Yorkshire's unemployed. So can it be reversed? Yes, it can. Where there's a will, there's a way. And you don't have to look far. 13 miles south is Southport. Now, 10 years ago, it was described as a rather sad, run-down seaside relic. But then it got just the investment that the Common Select Committee says is vital. And the money came from Europe.
Over the last 10 years, there's been over £63 million worth of public money spent on seawalls, renewing the pier and the public structure.
A good-looking town attracts private investors. They came, they looked, and they liked what they could see happening here. So they pumped in more than £70 million.
Over to the side there's a £15 million boutique hotel being built as we speak. People don't invest that kind of money without knowing that there is a long-term strategy and that local, regional and central government are behind the resort.
This is, to my mind, the perfect example of if you've got something, flaunt it.
Absolutely, it's a classic piece of Victorian architecture, and many of the traditional seaside resorts have got bits of architecture like this, but in Southport's case, they've had the vision to bring it back to life. As it happens, the regeneration programme here is all about the classic resort. Southport is rebranding itself as it once was, a classic resort.
Well, this is perfect example.
Absolutely.
Money follows money. And the housing market here hasn't missed the trick either, building upmarket homes to match Southport's upturn in fortunes.
We're just entering the main lounge area.
Nice view. I suppose they buy it for the view, don't they?
Yes, certainly. It's quite a feature of these properties. The room up here is an extension of the original property leading up to the original beams.
Oh, yes.
still within, made
yeah.
quite a feature of this property, and again with an amazing view
This is
out
nice.
onto the local seafront.
This is nice.
Areas. And,
And
of
a
course,
patio. Can I
a
have a look?
patio
Can I have a
quite
look?
again. It's certainly another feature.
South-facing, Victorian chimneys and things.
All the features are still in place.
Yeah. Who lived here at the beginning?
Originally, I believe, as a footballer, Dominic Matteo from originally Liverpool team.
Yeah.
And we have Stevie Gerrard, the current Liverpool captain, I believe was an owner of one of the properties nearby.
If I wanted to buy this, how much is it going to cost me?
It's currently on the market for £595,000.
£600,000 for a two-bedroom apartment.
In the Phase 2 development, the most expensive properties, I believe, are 1.2 million.
Over £1 million?
Over the million mark.
Now, would you have got that 2 years ago, 5 years ago?
Not at all, no. Southport is going through a lot of regeneration projects at the moment.
So the promise of plenty for Southport, unlike so many resorts, whose future is still on the rocks.
Now here's a pretty place that could have gone down that same rocky route. St Ives, on the North Cornish coast, boasts some of the finest beaches in the West Country. Now for a long time now, well over 100 years, it's been a haven for artists and people who pretend to be artists.
And when the town was struggling during the recession in the late 80s, that reputation was crucial. Because in 1993, it led to the opening of Tate St Ives.
Is it true to say that that building, the Tate, has really turned St Ives around?
Well, yes, it has turned St Ives around, and not just St Ives, it's probably turned Cornwall around. I mean, that's the bottom line, and that's why County Council are always so interested in it and active partners with the Tate. I suppose the big areas of benefit, restaurants, catering, they've all boomed since the Tate opened. The quality and reputation of our restaurants is great. So it's moved us way up market.
The gallery had 250,000 visitors last year and added £16 million to the Cornish economy.
What would have happened to this town if it hadn't been for the gallery? What do you think would have happened to it?
Oh my goodness me, I have...
Would your hotel still be here and would it still be full of people?
No, it wouldn't.
Eh?
It would be here, but not at the same standard that we are. The Tate has raised the standard of everything in the town. The shops, the pubs, the beaches. The Tate has 3 or 4 exhibitions a year, and each one of these exhibitions attracts fantastic publicity. People in the hairdressers are then picking up these things, and they see St Ives, St Ives, St Ives. And it's that drip feed that the Tate brings. That's the important part.
And that seems to be the lesson for success. Discover your own unique selling point, and then push it for all it's worth.
This is so much about the location. What's exciting for us and why we came here was that we can actually show art, international standard art, that has actually come out of the landscape. We look out the window here, there's the landscape, you look on the wall and there's the art reflecting it. And that's quite a unique thing.
If you've got something, plug it.
I think that's true, but you have to recognise that it comes out of the very specific and unique location and heritage of this town. And if you're talking about another town, you need to be looking at what's unique for that town. It's not one size fits all.
Good advice, but Blackpool has its own special problems. How to please all the people all of the time. Kiss me quick for some, champagne and oysters for others.
We've had a great Easter. Weather was good.
How many oysters did you manage to sell?
We sold 1,500 oysters just over the 3 days.
1,500? That's amazing. I think this is just the most magnificent way to make everything more upmarket in Blackpool and really, really introduce something special into the town.
Amanda Thompson runs Blackpool's famous pleasure beach. She's working for a new upmarket image, and she's putting her money where her mouth is.
This is a brand new 5-looping roller coaster, and the great thing about this ride is it's going to be the only suspended coaster over water. And we're going to have water jets that are going to fire out and fountains. It's going to be really spectacular when it's finished.
Is it going to be as horrific as that?
It's going to be totally different because The big one, you're on top of the track. On this ride, you're going to be hanging underneath with your legs dangling. I mean, it's a huge investment, 8 million.
You know, over the last, 20 years, you've lost a lot of customers here.
We have, but Blackpool has lost a lot of customers, and we've managed to maintain a good base, a customer base here, but we have lost a lot of customers.
Doesn't that scare you?
Yes, it does scare me, but I think everyone in Blackpool is going to start investing in the town, and we've really all got to work together.
So that's the message. Let's change things, improve our image right across the town, but let's not forget what we are. Britain's favourite seaside resort.
I think it's quite fun and retro, and I love the image of Kiss Me Quick hats and Blackpool rock, and I think that's really important.
We'd expect them to be upbeat, wouldn't you? It's their town, it's their life, their jobs, it's their money they're investing, it's their spin. Great expectations. But in reality, let's not forget this, that when Blackpool's council put in its bid for Britain's first super casino, it said, and I quote, "If we don't win this bid, Blackpool is dead." And Blackpool didn't win it.
That bid had all party support here, but the decision is now being reviewed after an outcry from MPs of all persuasions.
We really wanted that. That was a very important thing to us in terms of a catalyst to drive our regeneration forward. We've talked about the timescale, and the timescale is really critical. If we can't turn the resort around in a reasonable timescale, then we are running a risk. And so we do have to look for something that's going to provide that bang that makes Blackpool perhaps the world's greatest seaside resort, which is where we want to be.
Well, where are you going to get that bang?
The strange thing about leisure, it's a supply-led market. So you have to look for the new thing that's out there that people haven't thought of yet.
Hundreds of millions of public and private money will be spent improving Blackpool. It is a mammoth task over 10 years, and probably more.
There's a master plan, a blueprint for New Blackpool, is there?
That's right, yes.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, what we're standing on is public realm, new space that has been created for tourists and locals alike. This is the baby version of it. In the centre of town there, we will be creating something really quite spectacular. High energy zones for kids, standing stones, giant insects, things for kids to play on, lighting schemes, all yet to be consulted on with the public, but these are the sort of ideas that are coming forward already.
And we used to play this game at dinner, it was called, we used to do, I'll name that soup in one. Right. One morning she put the breakfast down for me, Daddy said, "Excuse me, there's a crack in the plate." She said, "No, that's the bacon."
It's not right to judge resorts out of season. Come the summer, and you've got a different feel altogether. When Blackpool's illuminations are switched on, the crowds will be here to marvel at them. Not so many, maybe, but that then is the challenge. How to get them back, how to keep them.
We used to stay at this grotty old hotel, these digs, every year, and it was filthy, cold, it was dusty. We used to have a pig on the bar as an air freshener. And the landlady, Vinegar Lil, she'd sit at the end of the bar drinking gin and Dettol all night. It was awful, it was. I remember my father going for a shave one day and said, "Have you got a good memory for faces?" He said, "Why?" She said, "There's no mirror in the bathroom."
And there are still plenty of places like it here. Did you know you can get a bed for £8 a night? And there are houses full of people on benefits. It is a seedy image that's hard to shake off. Mind you, they are trying. They've got accommodation inspectors now.
This is just an example of how it was. If you just, I mean, this is a shower unit, you just look at the sort of scum in the corner there, you know, hole in the shower tray, and really quite dangerous. You know, a children's bunk bed, which was right next to an electrical box with the cover missing on it, so there's nothing to stop somebody putting their fingers in there. There's clutter all over the fire exits.
What a massive job you've got on your hands. All these tiny little B&Bs, all probably, you know, suffering the way this is.
Yeah, well, this is what we want them to end up as. So, you know, through robust enforcement and also offering the, you know, the training courses that we do.
You've got a hard slog ahead of you, I think.
Yeah, we have, but we're ready for it in Blackpool, yeah.
Before, this hotel would have failed every quality and safety check. But the new owners have spent a lot on it, and they've never regretted it.
You notice that they've put flowers up, you know, which is sort of freshening the property up at the beginning. And as you walk in, you know, you can smell it's a nice fresh smell. I mean, I remember a previous visit I did, it actually smelled of sewage when I walked in here.
Becky, your family spent a small fortune here.
They spend all their savings, literally all their money they have.
Has it been worthwhile? Are you getting accustomed?
Yes, we are. We're fully booked most weekends now. Christmas and New Year, we're fully booked. Pigeon weekend, we're fully booked now. We're doing really well. We've even got repeat bookings now.
I worked in Bournemouth. That was a lovely place, but rather posh. I mean, the seagulls fly upside down in Bournemouth, you know. And, they play bingo, but they don't shout house, they shout shally bungalow. And they don't sell the big issue in Bournemouth, you know, they sell homeless and gardeners.
Perhaps posh is what Blackpool needs a lot more of. It already has the poshest B&B. Last week it won the Best in England award, and all financed out of the owner's own pocket. They've not waited for public money. This is self-help, and it's paid off handsomely.
Did you expect a B&B in Cumbria or the Lake District or Devon, Cornwall to pick it up like that?
Yes.
But for somebody in a B&B in Blackpool, that's a bit of a breakthrough, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely marvellous, and I think we've had a tough time in Blackpool lately. We get quite a bit of bad publicity. People like to enjoy knocking us, I think. So for the fact that a Blackpool B&B has won that, I'm immensely proud. You know, it's a scary thing to do. You are financially putting yourself out there. In the early days when we were first building up our business, we were very much on our own. What has amazed me this time is how much support is out there. I think when people see what we're doing and that it is working for us, they will follow suit.
The MP's report says that the government simply hasn't recognised the problems facing coastal towns. A vast amount of money's been spent on our cities, but seaside resorts have often missed out, left to find their own 21st century way to bring the punters back.
Got a really ageing population in Eastbourne, you know. All the shop windows are bifocal. And the undertakers are called next.
Reports of the death of the traditional British holiday resort may well have been exaggerated, but the fact is, as a doctor might put it, they're of failing health, but not yet terminal. So to keep them alive and kicking, the report by this committee of MPs, their conclusion is stark. They need money, lots of it, and now. In their words, regeneration is of critical importance. It would be sad otherwise, wouldn't it, if these resorts simply became dots on the road map of Britain, where people once went on holiday.
Michael Nicholson with that report. The Select Committee of MPs has called on the government to adopt a national strategy to promote and support seaside resorts. It says they're the least understood of Britain's problem areas. And there are more details on our website at itv.com/tonight. Coming up on Monday, credit card frenzy. How criminal gangs could be targeting your plastic. Earlier this month, we reported on the growth of credit card fraud. Since then, we've been inundated with your experiences. Fiona Foster asks why more isn't being done to stop this new crime.
I felt like I'd been burgled, but nobody had been in the house. That somebody had used my card to obtain services or money. I knew nothing about it. Nobody wanted to do anything about it.
What about filling up with petrol?
Cash. Cash.
That's on Monday night at 8 o'clock. Until then, from all of us here, goodbye and thank you for joining us.
Next tonight, could a 1940s jazz evening hold the key to a bizarre midsummer murder here on ITV1? Well, on ITV2, compassion and hope. They're not usually things you associate with Simon Cowell, but the 6 wannabe American Idols are saying it with song next.